Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Genesis Jack, which is a new jack alternative that's going to try to take the place of my tried and true Rogue Mini Deadlift Jack, my Dead Wedge, or everybody's favorite, just a change plate thrown under a couple of 45s and just make do. Now, all of those options are great, neither of which are perfect, however, and I think the Genesis Jack may have solved some of these issues. So I'm really excited to try it out, and let's see if it does the job, or it's just going to be another jack we're going to have to off from our list. The Genesis Jack is one company's answer to the age-old problem of putting weight on the bar to deadlift. Now, as mentioned earlier, we've all likely used a plate to do this in the past, while I've also used a dead wedge and mini jack, which I'll link those videos in the description box below. And while those have worked, they've also had some issues. The Genesis Jack is aimed at fixing those problems. The Genesis Jack is made from a strong, lightweight material.
Is it adamantium?
No, not adamantium, but rather 6061 aluminum, which allows it to lift an extreme amount of weight while remaining light and portable. Now, the jack itself weighs less than 2 pounds, and I'm going to go ahead and break down the design into 3 parts. The first of which is the base of the jack. So it has 3 feet for stability that curve up towards the front and ends up being 7 inches long. Now, this is the part that initially touches the ground and allows you to lift the weight back. The feet are grooved for added grip and are 2 1/4 inches wide. The middle foot is part of the overall handle of the jack and stands at 18 inches tall. Now, about halfway up, you have UHMW hook that helps you grab onto the bar, which, by the way, is user replaceable. And the plastic not only protects the bar, but the jack as well. And according to the website, in the future, you'll be able to customize the colors of this piece, which I'm all about. And at the top of the handle, you have 4 grooves for easy gripping. The overall look of the jack is pretty sweet and definitely reminds me of some sort of weapon.
Did you say weapon? Like Weapon X?
Almost like an ice pick. Before I get into how the jack works, let's take a look at the other options I was using before. Now, for the dead wedge, it's nice because it's small and it's light. However, my issues with it was that it was wider than the plates I was using at the time, and putting on a second plate was sometimes difficult because it would hit the rubber wedge. The biggest issue I had, though, was when it was rolling and adding plates on. The plates oftentimes became loose. Now, because the wedge is in contact with the bottom of the plate, it made it difficult to push them all the way back to the collar without physically lifting the weights and bar up, which kind of defeats the purpose of the wedge in the first place. And with the Rogue Mini Jack, it did a much better job of this as it lifted the plates completely off the ground. However, it's fairly big and pretty heavy at almost 10 pounds. It also has another severe issue, which I didn't find out until doing some testing today, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Where the wedge travels well but performs below par, the Mini Jack travels terribly but performs really well. Now, this is where the Genesis Jack comes into play because it's really the best of both. It not only travels well, but it performs better than the Mini Deadlift Jack. It fits nicely in a gym bag and in most cases weighs less than your Olympic shoes and or weightlifting belt. Now, here you can see it in action. It simply attaches to the bar and with a little movement brings the weight right up. One of the things I also really like about it is that it doesn't need as much space on the floor to get the bar off the ground. For the wedge, you have to roll the weight, and for the Mini Jack, not only do you have to roll it a little bit, you then need another 19 inches or so behind the bar, so you need to have clearance, and the Genesis Jack just needs those 7 inches and you're good to go. It's one of the few instances where less is more in this case. Now, I mentioned a severe issue with the Mini Jack that I hadn't discovered until today, and as part of my testing, I wanted to see how these jacks held up under tremendous loads. So what did I do? I loaded up 1,000 pounds and gave it a go. The Genesis Jack performed great, and as you guys can see right here, it wasn't very difficult to get the weight off the floor. However, with the Mini Jack, I couldn't even get it up. You'd have to be some type of mutant to even move this thing.
That's good. Yeah.
I said you'd have to be some type of mutant to even move this thing.
What? Wait, what? Wait, what? What'd you say? What? No, I was just looking. No. Oh, hell. This could prove to be difficult.
So there you go, that's the Genesis Jack, and I think it gets a lot of things right. Now, when I was building on my own home gym, you guys know I didn't really spare any expense, and even though I considered getting a full-size jack because that's what they use in competitions and that was what I was trying to emulate, it just didn't really make sense for me because when you're training in a basement or in your garage at home, space is usually at a premium, so I wanted something more compact, and for me, the full-size jack just didn't give me enough bang for my buck when it came to that. Now, the same thing can be true if you're training at a commercial type gym. Now, obviously, if you're going to a powerlifting gym, you probably have some jacks or other materials there supplied to you, but when I was training in commercial gyms, I had to use 2.5 5-pound plates to do so. And again, while they did the job, they weren't perfect, they weren't very effective, and now that I've owned and bought a lot of my own equipment, I would never do that because I think it ruins that stuff over time. So as I mentioned, this thing would be perfect to throw in a gym bag or keep with you because it's light and it's easy and it's small. And again, it just does a really good job at what it's intended to do. Now, if you're interested in buying one, right now they're doing a pre-order run where they're selling the first 250 for $65, which I think is a tremendous deal. Now, past that point, once they fulfill that 250, which I do believe they're pretty close at doing, the price jumps up back to $90, which is its normal price, which to me is still a very good deal. And you have to really consider here the fact that it's really just a two-person operation. The guy Steve and his wife, and they're just making these out of their home right now. And again, they're doing a phenomenal job. This thing has some awesome build quality, as you guys have already seen, and they're trying to compete with some of the big boys of manufacturing. So obviously their price might be a little bit high, but I think the return on investment is definitely there, and it's definitely worth considering if you're in the market for a deadlift jack. Hopefully that answers some questions. If you have more, leave them in the comment section below. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.